Hi, and welcome to the Nonprofits. And have we got a story for you? Now, we picked this one up out of the Insider. It was written by Amber Middleton, and it is about a white supremacist who took MDMA for a study, ecstasy, and it snapped him out of his bigoted beliefs. And he actually started questioning why he was doing this, why he was a bigot. Um, this is a really interesting thing. I'm hoping that maybe we can do some more research into this. I know there has been some research into MDMA with things like PTSD in the past, and I think it looks like a wide open area of possibly therapeutic value. Raphael, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, this was a super interesting study where MDMA had this profound effect on this person who really start questioning why they were like a white supremacist and bigot. I guess the first thing I'll say is, uh, as all as with all science media, take this with a grain of salt. This is one person. It's a very interesting finding, and I'm hoping it really opens up other avenues of research on MDMA in addition to like the PTSD that people have been studying. And it's like you said, Kelley, this is like it's an emerging science. There's not a lot out there yet. There's a lot of questions. We don't really understand a lot about how these drugs are working in the brain. But for me, the connection between, if there is a connection between like PTSD and bigotry, how much of bigotry is coming from some type of trauma at some point in their lives. And if it is coming from some type of trauma, can you treat it like PTSD in some ways? Clearly for this person, they had this profound effect. And, it'd be really interesting to see what the follow-up papers are on this. Helen, do you have any comments?
So can we just applaud Brandon for letting go of bad ideas? Yay! Let's applaud Brandon. Yay! So I think that's great. But as someone that took psychology and I did a thesis study on the effects of MDMA on generalized anxiety disorder, it did have really good positive effects. But just because you give someone a drug and something good happens doesn't mean that this will affect every racist. Okay, like please don't give every racist hallucinogenic and expect them not to be racist anymore. That's not how this works. But I do think, because drugs like these can open up the mind, it helps you become very introspective and do a lot of reflecting on why you think the way that you think, your place in the world, how MDA can create feelings of great closeness and bonding with other people, but it can also make you super territorial. So there's positives and negatives to every drug, and it has to do with brain chemistry, environment, the way you've been socialized. A whole bunch of different factors can go into this. Now, I think it's
Concert
great.
you're at? What concert that you're at?
What concert that you're at? Yeah. Like have profound. I mean, like, I hope someone's gone to a concert and stopped being a racist. That'd be great too. So I think it's commendable, but this is not science, people. This is just one guy who took a drug and decided that, hey, I'm a white supremacist. You know what? It's not serving me anymore. Why do I think this way? We're all just people. I think that's wonderful. But again, like, I would love to see more of a meta-analysis of this, rather than just one dude becoming a better person. But I do applaud Brandon for becoming a better person. So if you're watching this, Brandon, applause.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead. Sorry.
I definitely think it's just another one of those, pieces in the overall puzzle that we've continued to see, time after time, where there is something about these hallucinogenic compounds in the world that, when mixed with proper guidance from trained professionals, we have seen some pretty incredible results. Again, more often than not, those results aren't, hundreds or thousands of people, right? We're talking about a handful of folks, across all of these, decades of studies. But we do, for instance, have, an account of an individual back in like the 70s, I think, that took LSD and like completely stopped being an alcoholic and like quit cigarettes and like, started becoming a super great functioning member of society again. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. And I wonder if maybe our understanding of these, compounds would be better if we hadn't had so much religious garbage for years talking about how all this stuff was just demons and, all that nonsense. What do you think on that, Kelley?
Yeah, that's really a good question. I mean, MDMA has been around since like 1912. I didn't realize that, but it's been around
Yeah.
for a long, long time. And it was intended to stop bleeding, actually. I guess there's a legend that's built up that it was developed as an appetite suppressant, but it was actually developed as a compound to stop bleeding,
Really?
which I found really interesting. Yeah, right.
Wouldn't have
But
I don't know how that works, but
yeah.
okay.
It wasn't until the late 70s that psychiatrists started using it for therapeutic purposes, and they made claims that it enhanced communication in patients that were, in session, and it also enhanced their ability to have insights. So they started doing a lot of research with it at the time. And just like with LSD, the people who were part of the research started bringing it home, and the chemical hit the street. People started making it illegal, or started making it in illegal labs. And the next thing you know, it's a controlled substance. And that's exactly what happened. And then in the 1980s, during the Reagan administration, they illegalized testing of all drugs that were illegal. So there was no more testing on MDMA, no more testing on cannabis. Anything that was illegal in the United States, you could no longer do clinical tests on. And that didn't end until the 1990s, when they started picking it up again. And they started finding out that it did help with PTSD, anxiety in autistic adults. And there was one more, pain in terminally ill patients. So, and I'm not sure that it actually got rid of pain. I don't want to say I'm a veteran MDMA user, but I have experienced it in my past, and I don't think it got rid of any of my pain, but I can see where it would have made it so I didn't care anymore. So I think it might be good for that. But the people who do use it are really quick to point out that it should only be given for reactive disorders like PTSD, because there are some psychological conditions that can actually be made worse by it. So you really need to take it under controlled circumstances with I like to say with a licensed physician, which is something that can't happen now, but it's something that we need to do. Because if it does have this therapeutic value, we should be using it. We should be helping people. We should be helping people like Brandon, showing them, giving them that enhanced insight that maybe what they're doing is wrong, right? That's seems very, very logical to me. So, Helen, you want to add more to it?
So, like the research that I did with studies that weren't in the United States, they were in Israel and other parts of the European Union, where this stuff actually is being tested on a regular basis. And what they have found is that if it is taken in a therapeutic setting, and it's set in setting, they're usually with a trained physician that has been trained how to administer the drug, the dosage, they do all the medical stuff to make sure it's safe. They know the patient's extensive history. So that's a big thing too, because they have to know any physical, mental conditions that they may have, that it can actually have an adverse effect. And it's set up so the therapist is with them the whole time, and asking them questions and bringing them through the process. This is not, I mean, like, I'm sure just Brandon took it for fun, and then he stopped being a racist, which I get. Yes, it's great, but if we want to use it in a therapeutic way, let's use it in a therapeutic way, like we use any other drug. Like I take Adderall and an antidepressant. I got prescribed those by my doctor, and they're beneficial to me. If we treat it like something to give people that have, anger disorders, alcoholism, all these different conditions that they could be improved by this with a trained physician that could help them get over a lot of, things that are causing hindrance to their lives, I think it'd be great. But like anything else, from aspirin to LSD, they're drugs. And you have to be careful, no matter what drug you're putting into your body, that it's under a doctor's order. So just something to think about. Going forward, because we don't promote, illicit drug use on this show. Sure. It should be under a doctor's prescription. So, be safe, children. Okay. Anyway, Raphael, do you have any other points to bring up on this?
Yeah, I'll just echo everything you just said. Drugs, the dose makes the poison. So every drug can be used in good and bad ways. I'll also point out that Brandon or Brendan or whatever the person's name was, he didn't just like overnight go, I love everybody who I used to hate. He was working at this. He got himself like some kind of like inclusivity helper, consultant of some type. He started meditating, and he even admits in the articles that he still has these like anti-Semitic and bigoted ideas and points, and that's when he had to do it. So like Helen said, and like I think I might have mentioned, this is one guy. It's not a magic bullet to fix things. And even if it's enough to like reboot your brain going, man, I was an asshole. All these things, like so many things in our lives, like take time and they take effort. This is not like you didn't turn a bigot into like the most woke quote unquote person on the planet or anything, so it's don't get confused. Drugs don't just fix everything immediately.
Yeah.
SR, what you got?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there. And at one point in this article, it mentions something which I'm going to be honest, y'all, I didn't fact check because I don't really care if it's true. It's just an interesting thought one way or the other, because it was just like MDMA has been used by the Taliban apparently during like divine prayer chants. And again, like I don't even know if that is true. But I could see it happening, just like I could see any religious ceremony occurring with some type of hallucinogenic drug, mainly because, spoiler alert, a lot of them have been for a really, really long time, right?
What?
It's been, I know,
I'm shocked,
I know,
SR. I'm so shocked.
I know something about the way this volcano has the fumes coming up above the Oracle of Delphi or something. I don't know. You're gonna have to talk to one of those archaeologists.
I'll talk to the Oracle of
the
Delphi,
right to the
okay?
But yeah, this definitely seems to me like there's a lot for us to study, but we have to do it in a responsible way, because I think, unfortunately, what ends up happening oftentimes is you get, those, let's just say some former comedian failed at it, started doing a podcast, works out too much, telling people to like do all this type of drugs on a regular basis. Some talking head like that. I'm not sure, who I'm thinking of at the moment, but yeah, Kelley, what else you got on this for us with MDMA here? Like,
well, couple of things I wanted to point out. I thought it was really interesting that one of the things that snapped Brandon out when he was under the influence of the MDMA was he started questioning his relationships. And that why can't I keep a relationship? What is the problem here? And he realized that it was his beliefs, his fascist beliefs. And I thought that was really interesting, because that one of the things that MDMA supposedly does for you is, you learn to love people. And if you're not getting that love back, I mean, that's probably what was making him wonder. And I thought that was interesting. But does anybody know how MDMA works? Like it increases the flow and reuptake of serotonin in your brain, right? Do anybody know how antidepressants work? Celexa, Lexapro?
Same way.
I'm on one.
Yeah,
I know.
They
I know.
inhibit the reuptake of serotonin in your brain.
Yep.
And I just wanted to make a note of that. It kind of makes you look at microdosing in a whole new light. That's all I'm saying. So go ahead, Helen. What do you go ahead?
This is the thing about I think this conversation we're having is very important, because what we're talking about is how do we break people out of bad ideas, and obviously we know that, like you were pointing out, Raphael, that he just didn't take MDMA. Like, he had to work at it. I think the MDMA helped him become more introspective and go, and like you said, Kelley, like, why are my relationships failing? Maybe I have some bad ideas. And then he started working on those things to be like, okay, I need to change the way I'm viewing things. And when those racist, I'm sure now he's trying, when those racist thoughts pop into his brain, he questions them. And he says and he works to say that's untrue. This is just, my reactionary brain, and I think that's great. I would love if there was a magic drug we could give to all terrible people. We could just give it to them, and they would just stop being terrible. I would love that, but we live in the world that is complicated and messy. And if I can take anything away from this story, and I hope other people will, that it may not be a drug, but I'm hoping when people come to an aha moment, they not only realize that they're at an aha moment, but they also need to work afterwards to not fall back into bad beliefs and bad ideas. So, this made me happy because there's one less asshole in the world, and I love that. So, I love a little bit of positivity on this show. So I'm going to take it and enjoy it.
Yeah. And I think that's a fantastic way to end on a good high note. So thanks so much, everyone, for watching and listening. And if you want to hear more from the nonprofits,